welcome, or maybe we should be saying good night. Those were such intense poems. They were beautiful. All three of you did a tremendous job, and I probably should just retire now, but I won't, because I've got poet's socks. So I can't retire until I use them up. There's been lots of strange things around this book. I just realized that on the back cover I have D.H. Lockhart saying some damn nice stuff. Did I pay you? Did I give you some cash? Because this is nice. And it also has Stephen Heighton, who a very good friend of mine who left us way too soon. So I'm going to read, this book is called Being Here, The Chemistry of Startle. And it's a book about travel. Some of the travel is fairly ordinary. People are going to countries they haven't been to before. And some of them are fantasy journeys, where we're going places that we might never really go to, but have the ability. Okay, sorry. I wanted to thank Richard. Where is? Yes, Richard. Tim, the guy or woman who runs this gallery. I didn't get to see them, so I have no idea what their name is, but I thank them. And this is for Karen. Supermoon. It's from Molly Coles-Tunn and Denise Rake. The three of us try to fit on the small concrete balcony an apology every few seconds for elbow bumps and hand grazes. We do our best to transcend such human mistakes, necks stretched right on time to catch the supermoon enter its ashy eclipse, a chimney sweep being lowered by a rope. Just as we're beginning to see the eye in Unshan Andalou, a bloody tear squeezes out. Molly admits she'd expected a grander sight, a Turner storm-tossed sea, rather than the North Scotland lake look that favors gloom over passion. Denise applauds its beauty, how much effort it takes to describe the world just right. At the least, I'm a filler of white spaces, while Molly is more the dreamy scrawler. Small compliments to the universe everywhere she goes. Denise finds sacredness in detail. The glare of her attention almost blinds us. With the blood of my right arm pressed against the blood of Molly's left, and with a tingle that could only be Denise's elbow, we bow in all directions, share our favorite planets, from Venus in blue jeans to Hendrix Valley of Neptune, from Freddie Mercury to Bruno Mars. Thank you. I was taking not a course, but I had a physiotherapist who was helping me to learn how to fall, which is a delightful thing to learn. I said no thanks, but I've kept falling, so she was a help, but she left, and she left me with a woman who was equally talented. It's just that she only really spoke Portuguese. So this is called Hide the Horse. Hide the horse, the Portuguese physio cried out in her shaky English. I immediately scanned my body, making sure I was properly put away. Hide it where? I asked, with the help of a shrug. Please, poet, what's the word, what you do to horses? Too incriminated to partake, I listened as she strung through the alphabet, finally exclaiming, ride, ride the horse. And exercise disguised as a metaphor in poetry's honor, no less. You make English so much better. At the dinner party, at that night's dinner party, a frisky black poodle took a shine to my crotch. Thrust and parry, parry and thrust. The hostess proposed I be a good sport. The dog would soon grow tired of me. While the man to my right, an orthopedic surgeon, busied himself draping several napkins, one of them mine, over his lap. Hide the horse, I heard myself say, in a suggestive tone. Then I said it again as I ground the heel of my hand into the poodle's muzzle to push her away. Everyone stared at the several beats until the 6-year-old daughter of the house, brow wrinkled, asked whether the horse was for real. I'm not sure I could tell the difference between a small horse and a big poodle in the candlelight. You ride one, you pat the other. I replied. The girl managed to rearrange herself on the chair until she managed to stand on it, straining for a glimpse of potential pony. I decided for some reason to take a trip into an abusive marriage. I did not have an abusive marriage. I had a wonderful. But this woman haunted me, so I just decided that I would move in. Her real face. Her heart sounds like the rattle a hole-in-one makes, shocks her dead husband Stan to exclaim, "But you loathe golf." She replies, "I only pretend to knowing how much it meant to you, knowing, but it hadn't intended for Stan to die." In fact, she'd bought him a Jack Russell at the Tucson Humane Society the last year. Rescue dog whose adoption forms lied about everything. I just got lost. After being scolded for shitting on the floor, he'd whine like a table saw cutting through a board. Their El Pueblo Park rambles often gave the impression that Stan was running away, the dog a listless pursuit. Now the damn beast belongs to her, same as the 3 buckets of hosed-down golf balls, and the dire words that never got quite as far as a conversation. She has a little rescue dog in her as well. When Stan was clearly dying, she'd cringe at how resentful she could let herself get. When he'd ask for tea or a turn at the TV remote, feeling guilty, one day she offered him a look at a cardinal perched in the yew outside their bedroom window. She'd almost forgot how callous he could be. He banged on the glass with his flat of his hand, shouting, "Fancy pants, I'll take a plain old sparrow any day." She cries a little remembering this. When the dog lands in her lap, she lets him lick away the tears, although she knows it would take a hammer and chisel to find her real face. Thank you. Now we'll go to Latvia. Did I really go to Latvia? We'll take a poll afterwards. This is called Pigeon. On the train from Latvia, every body of water we passed reminded me of Lake Ontario, the way the moon shone crookedly in between the limbless waves. My friend Matty and I scuff across a sandy stretch of Estonia's Baltic shore. Our fishing skills, much the same as our ability to communicate in 2 different tongues, waiting for the carp to haul their considerable hunger ashore. We enjoyed the wrestle and the trash, held back up the beach up to the truck, the brazen stink of sweat and scales. Matty loves carp as much as he loves cabbage and fried potatoes. His girlfriend Maria is addicted to migraines, spends most of her time in a room so dark he can only see her through the heat of his fingertips. Smell goes deeper into feeling than any other sense. And feelings in this part of the world are dangerous to have, let alone share. Imagine the bravery of new countries, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, with their inseparable traditions and terrors, how they manage fear in place of choice. One dismal evening, we sit on a bench in Talon Square. Maria too sick to bear even our most honorable of silences. Matty lay his head on my shoulder as we observed the pigeon with a torn wing drag himself across So the weight of Maddie's head presses hard against my shoulder. An ensuing pain runs down my arm. He asks whether I believe that luck can ever be enough. Luck, I repeat. Now there's a word that some countries long ago banished. My arm rose to try and stretch out what had almost become a cramp, causing the pigeon to startle and Matty to duck, not sure of my body, if my body knows how to exercise its freedom, how to extend itself. But Matty seemed so sure. He waved his arms even higher than mine, high enough for the moon to take note. I'm going to read you a cocktail party. If you recognize yourselves, just call me a name. It's called Piccolo Discorso, Small Talk. They breach my slump in a corner of the kitchen, from where I add nothing more stellar to the party than a throat clearing or two. Oh, how invisibility smarts, overpowered by summer pastels, radishes ranting to rhubarb. They wave their beer bottles in the air like awards they've won simply for showing up. My energy keeps draining away. Everyone notices my racy little tremors. And how many ways can I tell the same sorry Parkinson's yarns? Cindy and Catherine already quarrel over which one would have been a prima ballerina, while Carlo complains about the rising tide of fascism. Anna links in with a saga about attending the same school as Bernadette Devlin when she was a child in Ireland. Bryce drags out the Baptists again. One more sour glory story. I turn to Vicky, who isn't sure who to blame for the paltry salad I shredded with my own fingers. She describes the one she would have concocted from arugula, walnuts, and crumpled bacon. had she not been assigned a dessert. Before I can come up with a retort disguised as an apology, Sebastian pushes in from the back patio, cradling a platter of puckered calabrese sausages, steaming, a secret recipe he refuses to divulge. The aroma leading us all to the dining room where he will preside. Has social life always been so aggressive? Once upon a time, we might have called this fritter or plunder, something to help us remember that regret and forget almost rhyme. Thank you. Do we know what time it is? I'll read just maybe 3 more. This is called The Towering of the Unconscious. And I must admit that I freaked out a little when, what's his D.H. said that angels should not appear in a poem. Well, these angels do. It's after Vender's Wings of Desire. You suppose it took a magician to raise Daniel and Cassiel to the top of the victory column, where they survey a black and white Berlin, survey steeped in bitter sadness. Explanations, of course, that lightless brew of sin slowly sinking vaults and the sewers without end. Archaeology feels more important than theology. Spires and buttresses fly from lanky cranes. Aeronautics, yes, so many engineers, mechanical means, my give and receive love. We're boggled at the complexity of chemistry in just one man. Biology, alchemy, gymnastics. Origami, the botany of blossom. Anatomy, one feather takes from another. We can't begin to fathom the psychology. All the same, and guilt, tower of the unconscious. To think one God used to be enough. We know how many muscles constitute a frown, the number of times in our lives when gravity will fail us, the powerlessness of words to lift anything more than tongues. Sometimes philosophy, cosmology, the universe of shared souls and brains. Distance, the only thing we have in common with the angels. Thank you. So I'm going to read a shorter one, and then this is called Malaga. We choose a bar in the waif city of Malaga, dark with crippled chairs, acne tabletops, a chalkboard menu of smudged Spanish, trickles of beer pool between floor tiles, the waiter, an apron of 1,000 stains, reminds me of the mansion house, late adolescence, a shadowy Scarborough dive. How does misery always find its way home? A photo wall of drunk compatriots, eyes half closed. A flash of Brenda rolling down the street the wrong way. Or the swish of me sneaking crisp past my parents. Splash of her throwing up in the laundry tub. Back then, I always ordered a slew of beers, better odds for happiness. Now, a gobsmacked fear misfires. The first after the first slurp, that something, past or present, was or will be terribly squalid. That time I got so drunk I lost control of my lips. Mid-kiss, part tonguing, part gnashing of teeth. Today in Malaga, the waiter adds a plate of wizened limes to the table, wiping his sweat with my eager Euro tip. Outside, the street will be trippy with crowds. I might even feel inheritable again for a few humid breaths. And finally, I'll end with a poem called Being Here, Berlin. There are little swallows that land on your table in Berlin. They're everywhere. There's outdoor cafes. People have 10 or 15 birds. Well, I didn't care about eating. I didn't care about anything, but I wanted those birds. This is what happened. Being here, Berlin. A burst of late afternoon light. A green grape responds to a small, thirsty bite. The patio at Tchaikovsky's fills up, glass-topped tables soon to be smudged with elbows. A waitress carries leather-bound wine lists under her arm and will soon reappear with baskets of pumpernickel and black olives. She, same as everyone in Berlin, this June wears a welcome mask. And I already have plans to scrape my chair back after dinner, wave the bold brown sparrows, wave in a clear landing strip. Let them feed on all my crumbs, the way painters in the Art Gallery did with various versions of Christ. It's at this point of self-indulgence when a young couple brushes past, chooses the table facing me. Their breeze is lemon peel rubbed on skin and something chemistry in the process of enhancement as they choose their seats and display other colors to what will soon be evening. They are quite probably more beautiful than Berlin, which adds envy to my greed. Here I am, about to shear myself from a city that has only recently become a fabric I can bear, and yet suddenly I feel another dreamy layer of being here, sugar entering the very idea of coffee. My taste buds ache as I watch the pink of the young woman's ankles tucked between the cobblestones beneath her chair. She runs her palms through her red-brown hair, an act of being felt as much as being seen. His white shirt climbs his spine, revealing a patch of bare skin where the black band of his underpants shows where the black shows above the scoop of his jeans, as if he had dressed in a hurry, as if seams misaligned, a hint of velvet, a hint of veiled nakedness. And it strikes me that less than an hour ago, he had bent over her, just as daylight was about to explode its buried pale greens, and kissed her ankle bones while she had reached her behind him, parting cotton and denim. Even with its history of extremes, the whole visit, I almost forgot the pain inherent in someone else's pleasure, until I look away from his exposed flesh and see an even bolder flesh exposed, intimacy in the way she holds him with her eyes, not even the flutter of a lash when the sparrows arrive, my sparrows, landing in the middle of their table, all bobbing heads and beaks, keys to a city beyond the museum's most precious teaks and pearls. Thank you very much. Thank you.